Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Hannah Daily English. I'm so excited you're here today.
Hey, and I'm thrilled to be here too. How's your day going so far?
Oh, it's going great. Actually, funny story. This morning I walked into the kitchen and almost tripped because my cat ran onto the counter. And I thought, you know what? This is perfect for today's lesson.
See? English happens in real life, and that's exactly what we're covering today. How to use into and onto in English. These two little words are super important, and honestly, a lot of learners get confused about them.
Oh, absolutely. And I totally understand why. They look similar, they sound similar, but they're used in different ways. So today, we're going to break it all down for you in a really simple, practical way.
By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly when to use into, when to use onto, and how to sound natural using them in everyday conversations. You'll feel so much more confident.
So here's my question for you. Have you ever been confused about into and onto? Like, have you ever stopped mid-sentence and thought, wait, which one do I use here? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear about your experience with these tricky prepositions.
Yes, please share. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Hannah Daily English and hit that like button. It really helps us create more lessons like this one.
All right, are you ready to finally master into and onto?
Let's do this. So, let's dive into today's topic.
Okay, let's start with into. Now, into is all about movement from outside to inside. Think about it. You're going from one place into another place, and that second place is like a container or enclosed space.
Exactly. The key word here is inside. Into shows movement toward the inside of something. Here's the basic formula. Subject plus verb of movement plus into plus noun. Simple, right?
Super simple. Let me give you some examples from my real life. This morning, I walked into the kitchen. Yesterday, I jumped into the pool. Last week, I got into my car and drove to work.
Perfect examples. And I'll add some too. I stepped into the elevator. I put my phone into my pocket. My dog ran into the house when it started raining.
Ooh, I love that last one. Can you see the pattern? In every single example, something or someone is moving from outside to the inside of something else. The kitchen, the pool, the car, the elevator, they're all spaces that have an inside.
Right. And here's something important. Into usually follows verbs of movement, like walk, run, jump, step, go, come, put, throw, fall, dive.
Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you went there? I do that all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's so relatable. And notice how natural into sounds in that sentence. I walked into a room, not I walked in a room. That's different. Into shows the movement of entering.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about the negative form. When you use not with into, the structure is subject plus auxiliary verb plus not plus verb plus into plus noun. For example, I didn't go into the office yesterday, or she won't run into the building.
Great. Here's another one. They don't want to get into trouble, or I'm not jumping into that cold water.
I don't blame you. Okay, listeners, now it's your turn. Pause the video and write your own example using into in the comments. Think about your daily routine. What did you walk into today? What do you put into your bag? Share with us.
And while you're thinking, let me ask you this. What about when into is used more abstractly? Like, I'm really into jazz music. What's happening there?
Oh, great question. So into can also mean you're interested in something or involved in something. I'm into cooking. She's into photography. Are you into that new TV series?
Exactly. The idea is still kind of the same. You're moving yourself mentally or emotionally into an interest or activity. It's like you're entering that world. Pretty cool, right?
I love how that works. So whether it's physical movement, like walking into a room, or expressing interest, like being into a hobby, into shows that sense of entering or engaging with something.
Perfect summary. Now, can you think of 3 things you're into right now? Write them in the comments. I'm into learning English. I'm into... You finish it.
All right, now let's move to onto. This one's a bit different, and once you understand it, you'll never confuse it with into again.
So onto is all about movement to the top of a surface. Think about it. You're putting something on top of something else, or you're moving yourself on top of a surface.
Yes, the key here is surface. Onto shows movement toward the surface of something. The formula is similar. Subject plus verb of movement plus onto plus noun, usually a surface.
Let me give you some real-life examples. I put my keys onto the table. I climbed onto the roof to fix something. The cat jumped onto my lap while I was reading.
Perfect. And here are mine. I stepped onto the stage to give a presentation. I threw my jacket onto the chair. The kids jumped onto the bed.
Of course they did. Now, can you see the difference? The table, the roof, the lap, the stage, the chair, the bed, these are all surfaces. Nothing is going inside anything. Everything is going on top of something.
Exactly. And just like into, onto usually follows movement verbs like jump, climb, step, put, throw, fall, get, move.
Here's a good way to remember it. If you can physically see the thing on the surface after the movement, use onto. Like if I put my phone onto the desk, I can see my phone sitting there on top of the desk.
Ooh, that's a great tip. But if I put my phone into my bag, I can't see it anymore because it's inside. See the difference?
Perfect. Now let's practice with some dialogue. Imagine we're at work.
Hey, can you put these documents onto my desk?
Sure. Should I also upload the files onto the shared drive?
Yes, please. And then can you step onto the balcony and check if it's raining?
Very specific, but notice how natural onto sounds in all of those.
Right. Now, here's something interesting. In casual conversation, native speakers sometimes say on instead of onto, like put it on the table instead of put it onto the table. Both are correct, but onto emphasizes the movement more.
Great point. Onto is more specific about the action of moving something to that surface. On can describe the location after the movement is done. The book is on the table. That's where it is. I put the book onto the table. That's the action of placing it there.
Now let's play a quick game. I'll give you a situation and you tell me if it uses into or onto. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. The bird flew blank the tree. Into or onto?
It depends. If the bird flew into the tree, maybe it flew into the branches, like inside the tree. But if the bird flew onto the tree, it landed on top of a branch. Both could work, but they paint different pictures.
Exactly. Context matters. Okay, listeners, here's your turn. Write a sentence in the comments using onto. Think about your morning routine. What do you put onto surfaces? Share with us. All right, now that you've got the basics down, let's look at some more advanced ways into and onto are used. These are the things that'll really make you sound like a native speaker.
So first up, into can be used to talk about transformations or changes. When something changes from one state to another, we use into, like the water turned into ice. She translated the book into Spanish.
Oh, I love these. Here are more. The caterpillar turned into a butterfly. We cut the paper into small pieces. He divided the cake into 8 slices.
See the pattern? Something is changing form or being transformed. It's moving from one state into another state. Super useful.
And here's another advanced use, into with time. We say things like, we worked late into the night. She read well into the morning. They danced into the early hours.
Exactly. It's showing that an activity continues and moves forward into a time period. It's like time is a space you're entering.
Now let's talk about onto in special contexts. Onto can also mean aware of or discovering something, especially in formal speech. Like, I'm onto your plan. That means I know what you're planning.
Yes, or the police are on to the suspect. That means they've discovered something and they're following the case. It's like they've gotten themselves positioned on top of the information.
Here's a really practical scenario. Imagine you're at a friend's house.
Hey, just put your coat onto the bed in the guest room.
Thanks. Should I put my shoes into the closet?
Yeah, or you can just step onto the mat by the door and leave them there.
Perfect. Now, notice the tone here. It's friendly and casual. When you're giving directions or instructions, say it with a helpful tone. Put your bag onto the counter sounds much nicer than barking orders.
Great point. And here's a tip for sounding natural. When you're describing a sequence of movements, use into and onto to make it clear and visual. Like, I walked into the building, climbed onto the escalator, and rode it into the second-floor lobby.
Ooh, nice. That paints such a clear picture. Listeners, try this. Describe your commute to work or school using into and onto. Say it out loud right now. I walk into the station, get onto the train, you finish it.
And remember, the more you practice saying these out loud, the more natural they'll become. Don't worry about perfection, just practice.
One more advanced tip. Notice the difference in these two sentences. She ran into the wall versus she ran onto the platform. The first one, into, sounds like an accident, like she crashed. The second one, onto, sounds intentional, like she ran and ended up on the platform's surface.
That's such a good observation. The preposition can totally change the meaning, so pay attention to whether you're talking about entering a space, into, or landing on a surface, onto.
All right, picture this scenario. You're moving to a new apartment. Describe the process using into and onto. Try saying it with me. I carried the boxes into the apartment, put them onto the floor, and then collapsed onto the couch.
Perfect, and that's exactly how you describe it naturally.
Okay, now let's talk about the mistakes. And you know what? I used to make these mistakes too when I was learning the differences between into and onto.
Oh, absolutely. These are super common, and every English learner makes them, so don't feel bad. We're going to fix them right now.
Mistake number 1, using in when you need into. This is probably the most common one. Incorrect, I went in the store. Correct, I went into the store.
So what's the difference? In describes location, where you are. I am in the store right now. But into describes movement, the action of entering. I went into the store. See?
Exactly. Think of it this way. In is for being there. Into is for going there. Another example. Incorrect. Put the letter in the envelope. Correct. Put the letter into the envelope.
Because you're moving the letter from outside to inside the envelope. Now, here's mistake number 2, using on when you need onto. Incorrect, she jumped on the bed. Correct, she jumped onto the bed.
Now, to be fair, you'll hear native speakers say jumped on the bed casually, and it's not wrong, but onto is more precise because it emphasizes the movement of jumping. When you want to be clear about the action, use onto.
Right, and in writing, onto is usually better. Here's another one. Incorrect, he climbed on the ladder. Correct, he climbed onto the ladder.
Mistake number 3, this is a funny one, confusing into and onto completely. Incorrect, I put my keys into the table. Correct, I put my keys onto the table.
Yeah, unless your table has a secret compartment, you're putting things onto it, not into it. The table is a surface, not a container.
Exactly. And the opposite mistake. Incorrect, she poured water onto the glass. Correct, she poured water into the glass because the glass is a container with an inside. The water goes into it, not just on top of it, unless you're trying to spill it everywhere. Right. Mistake number 4, forgetting into and onto with phrasal verbs. Incorrect. I'm looking in this problem. Correct. I'm looking into this problem.
Great catch. Look into is a phrasal verb meaning to investigate something or research it. You can't just say, look in there. It changes the whole meaning.
Another one. Incorrect. Hold on the railing. Correct. Hold onto the railing.
Hold on to means to grip something tightly. This is really important for safety instructions.
And mistake number 5, using into, 2 words, when you mean into, 1 word. Incorrect. She walked into the room. Correct. She walked into the room.
So into is 1 word when it's showing movement towards the inside, but into as 2 words exists for other grammar reasons, like she came in to say hello. Here, in is part of came in, and to say is the infinitive. It's different.
Ooh, that's confusing. But here's the trick. If you're talking about entering a place or space, it's 1 word, into. If in and to are doing separate jobs in the sentence, keep them separate.
Don't worry if it feels complicated. The main thing is, for movement towards the inside, use into as 1 word. You've got this.
Remember, everyone makes these mistakes, and that's totally normal. Now you know the right way, and every time you practice, you'll get better and better.
All right, time for some practice. We're going to give you some situations with 2 options. You choose which one sounds better, okay? And say your answer out loud before we tell you. This is great practice.
Situation 1. You're describing your morning routine. I got in my car and drove to work. I got into my car and drove to work. What sounds better?
The answer is B. I got into my car, because you're moving from outside the car to inside the car. Into shows that movement. Option A isn't terrible in casual speech, but B is more correct and clearer.
Perfect. Situation 2. You're at a swimming pool. I dove into the pool. I dove onto the pool. Which one?
Definitely A. I dove into the pool, because you're entering the water, going from outside to inside. If you said onto the pool, that would be, well, painful. You'd be diving onto the surface, not into the water.
Ouch. Good point. Situation 3. You're helping someone with directions. Just step into the platform and wait for the train. Just step onto the platform and wait for the train.
That's B. Step onto the platform, because the platform is a surface and you're moving onto that surface. Into wouldn't make sense here because you're not entering an enclosed space.
Exactly. Situation 4. You're talking about a transformation. She translated the document into French. She translated the document onto French.
It's A. Translated into French, because translation is a transformation, a change from one form into another. Into is perfect for showing that change.
Great! Situation 5. You're describing an action in your kitchen. I poured the juice into the cup. I poured the juice onto the cup.
That's A for sure. Poured the juice into the cup. The cup is a container, and the juice is going inside it. If you said onto, it sounds like you're pouring juice on top of an upside-down cup.
What a mess that would be. Okay, last one. Situation 6. You're talking about focusing on something. Let's move into the next topic. Let's move onto the next topic.
This one's interesting. Actually, both can work, but they're slightly different. Move into the next topic sounds like we're entering that topic deeply. Move onto the next topic sounds like we're shifting our attention to the next thing in sequence. Both are correct.
Exactly. In practice, you'll hear native speakers use both. The difference is subtle. Into feels more immersive. Onto feels like a transition.
Now here's your challenge. Create your own sentence using into or onto based on something you did today. Write it in the comments and we'll reply to you. We want to see what you come up with. And remember, real conversation is more important than perfection. If you try and make a small mistake, that's okay. You're learning.
Wow, we covered so much today. I'm so proud of you for sticking with us through this whole lesson.
Seriously, into and onto can be tricky, but you're getting it now, aren't you?
Let's do a quick summary of what we learned today. Today we learned 1. Into shows movement from outside to inside. Think containers, enclosed spaces, entering something. I walked into the room. Also used for interests like I'm into music, and transformations like turned into ice. 2. Onto shows movement to the top of a surface. Think tables, floors, platforms, anything flat you can put something on or stand on. I jumped onto the bed. Key differences. Into is for going inside. Onto is for going on top of a surface. And we covered common mistakes like using in when you need into, or confusing which one to use.
You guys are doing amazing. Every time you practice using into and onto, you're getting more confident and more natural. Keep it up.
So here's my question for you. Which use of into or onto will you try first? Are you going to practice describing your daily movements, or maybe talk about things you're into? Let us know.
And if this lesson helped you, please give us a thumbs up. It really means a lot and helps other learners find this video.
Yes, and share this with a friend who's learning English. Learning together makes it so much more fun.
Don't forget to leave a comment with your example using into or onto. We read every comment and we'll reply to you. We love hearing from you.
And if you haven't already, subscribe to Hannah Daily English for more lessons like this. We post new videos every week to help you improve your English.
Next time, we're going to cover another tricky topic that so many learners struggle with, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.
Thanks so much for learning with us today. We really appreciate you being here.
Keep practicing, keep improving, and remember, every time you use into or onto correctly, you're one step closer to fluency.
We'll see you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye, everyone. Keep up the great work.